everybody. I'm Scotty J. You are watching Rock Titan Music Television. I got a great guest with us right now. And as a matter of fact, the guest we have with us right now is the fulfillment of a promise I made to a guest we had the other day. For those of you that have been following, we had Doug Aldrich with us talking all things Burning Rain and their brand new album that's coming out Friday, March 22nd, Face the Music. He's like, where's Keith St. John? Where's my frontman? I'm like, I don't know. Well, everybody, we got the man right now, Keith St. John.
Scotty J.
Yeah,
thanks for
man.
having me. It's really good to be here.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, because obviously there's got to be a lot going on with your brand new Burning Rain album coming out like in less than a week.
There is stuff. It's flying, man. We got tour plans and interviews and single releases, video releases, all the stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, we're bubbling up right here, man, going crazy.
It's funny, and we were talking a little earlier, off the record, of course. Doug is like, oh yeah, if I have the chance to jump in on this conversation, I will. But he's in China, it's already tomorrow for him.
That's all right, man. He is a trooper. If he gets the call or if he sees it's going on, he'll jump in, man.
Yeah, he's in the future, so time travel. That's the only way we're bringing him in right now. But,
True.
Yeah. So everybody, again, we are here with Keith St. John. You all know him from, being frontman of Montrose, and he's sung with other bands. When bands have an idea, for some new music that they want to do, but they don't have the chops on their own. They just know they don't have the vocals. They got Keith St. John on speed dial. Am I right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Yes.
It rings a little bit still, as we get older,
Right.
We it's ringing as much as it does.
Yes. Now, it's funny because obviously Doug and I, we got to talk about a number of things with your brand new album, Face the Music, coming out. But there are some things that I want to talk to you about that we didn't have a chance to touch on. And that is, how did you and Doug actually meet? Because you guys formed Burning Rain. And I know that the lineup you have right now is, new versus the one you had on the previous 3 albums. Because again, this is your 4th studio album. How did you and Doug actually meet?
We met because we had a one band member in both of our bands, bass player,
Okay.
and his name was Ian, and it was just simple. He knew Doug was looking for a new singer to do something new, and he was already in my kind of LA band, one of my projects I was putting together, and he said, "Hey man, I want you guys to meet." That was that. And believe it or not, that was about 20 years ago.
Right. I know. Well, that's what we were talking about. Yeah.
That's a bit of time, right? So, he introduced us. Doug and I met, and we just sat down, demoed up 2 or 3 songs, sent them to Pony Canyon, and our relationship started there with a deal on a Japanese record label, Pony Canyon.
And I want to talk about you bring up the Japanese record label. That's another thing that I really kind of want to talk to you too, that Doug and I touched on a little bit. But with the first few albums that Burning Rain put out, it really was more heavily pushed over in Japan, and over in Europe. It didn't get pushed so heavily over here in the United States. And, having listened to, Face the Music a couple of times through, as well as some of your previous albums like Epic Obsession, which was the one just previous to this, even though it was like, almost 6 years ago at this point that came out. Why the focus on, areas outside the U.S.?
I think, well, that's kind of where Pony Canyon was at. I mean, they signed, they had an international division, and they had a bunch of U.S. bands in sort of our genre.
Okay.
And they weren't interested in promoting it and pushing it really outside of Japan. The next record we tried to spread over into Europe by, having the record sub-licensed over to a European label. But I don't really feel like either of those 2 first records were really properly promoted the way they could have been. I just feel like we just weren't in their radar, to push the hell out of it. What was happening, honestly, and I think, sometimes with Japanese business guys, even if they're on a ship that they know they're going to close down and pull into port because they're going to shut that down, they'll still finish up their business and finish up their deals. So I think we were at the tail end of, an era when U.S. bands were going over and by and large, when we first went over, it was like being the Beatles and arriving at the airport with, crowds of people with signs behind customs and all that stuff, right? For the fans, they were still into it, but I think, the record people, the execs and everybody, they knew these days were numbered. So they weren't spending extra money on trying to build international acts anymore. They were just going to go through the motions because it was the proper thing to do, put these bands out, and then just kind of, in a few years, they kind of shut down all those international divisions. I think what happened was they just figured out, hey, we can build local bands out of our own, out of Japanese people. We don't have to spend all this money flying people over from the U.S. and Europe and doing all that. So that was a thing I think we just didn't know we were caught in, like a diminishing trend that was going on there. So that's really why they didn't throw any extra money into us. And the social media wasn't there yet at that point. In 99, 2000, it just wasn't there. And we're artist types. We're the last people that sort of got organized on the social media.
Right.
Like, go to check my email, what? Right? So we're the last people to catch on to that. So, we just, it was only like the techies and, I hate to say, kind of, scholastic nerd types or whatever that were starting their own YouTube channels back then, and people who were real interested in having shows like yourself. But most artists weren't doing that back then. So not that many people in the U.S. knew about us. And on our last record deal with Frontiers, who we're still with now,
right.
They were on their way up as far as promotion and social media and getting into that aspect of bands. And that album, which is all the albums I feel are really great in their own right. They're all very different from each other and very different from this one. But, like you said, it's been a long span of time. So between 1 and 2, which came out in like 2000, 2001, it was 13 years before the next album. And Doug and I had lots of experience, him with Whitesnake and Dio and, all his worldwide experiences, and me with, Lynch and Montrose and all the other things I did. We brought all this to the table. So we had this great mishmash of stuff to, our original vibe together, and then all this new icings to put on different songs. And, we really both loved that album. But, still, as individuals and artists, I don't think we were in the zone of getting down on the internet and, like, getting our thing out there on our own. And we weren't in a position probably at that point for Frontiers in stature for them to spend the extra time and money either. For some reason, we've become this wild card now on this record, and it's the greatest thing that, the label's really behind it. There's media cats and rock and roll and chicks and stuff all over the U.S. that have found Burning Rain and are like interviewing us and like bringing us out into the light, so to speak, all of a sudden. And it's really refreshing, and it's super fun, and it's kind of a long time coming for both of us. We've been doing cool things and kind of out in the public, and we got our fans, but now they're like, yeah, man, we always knew about Burning Rain. Oh, wow. Yeah, we're going to check this out, and they are, and they're liking it. So there it is in a nutshell. It just seems circumstantial that it really didn't get pushed worldwide all this time, and maybe we got overlooked.
Well, this is the time. This is the time, Keith. Again, everybody watching Rock Titan right now, we are here with Keith St. John. This is part 2, because the other day we were with Doug Aldrich talking about the brand new album, Face the Music by Burning Rain, coming out March 22nd, everybody, via Frontiers Music. And so just looking over, I've had a chance to listen to the whole album. I know, not a lot of the public has, but for everyone right now, you can go check out Midnight Train, because that was their first official music video out there. And then it's funny, I think it might have been happening right around the time, I think I might have actually been talking to Doug right when Face the Music, the official music video, was being publicized. I think it was literally hitting the web right when we were talking. So you can go check out the title track of the album, Face the Music, right now as well. And very cool stuff. And it was funny because that's one of the things, Keith, that Doug really wanted, to talk about, because I know that you wrote like the majority, if not all, of the lyrics for this album. Maybe things were a little more collaborative in the past with some of your other band members, with Doug specifically. But I know that you're the guy. You're the one. That created. The lyrics for these songs. Face the Music. Tell me what that's all about.
All righty. Yeah, we're scribbling it down, and as you go and you scribble and you erase and you think, and you just kind of try to let the universe, for me, just kind of try to let the universe speak as you kind of sing your way and scat your way through the music, and stuff comes out. That's, for me anyway, that's the process. I kind of let the music do the talking, so to speak, and Face the Music title, I was just driving in my car and jamming along with the demo we had with the music, and I sang the thing out and I recorded it on my phone, and I called Doug. I said, what do you think about the title Face the Music? He said, yeah, it sounds really cool. I go, and what do you think about that title for the record? Think about it, blah, blah, blah. There's this entendre. You can think about it this way. We've got these other songs that could relate to that. And he was like, sounds good to me, man. And it was that simple, and it just stuck. Obviously, for people who prefer to be artists and keep their art integrity going, which I try to do sometimes, I don't like the song's meaning to be just immediate, right in your face. I'd rather have you have to think about it a little bit or come up with your own meaning. And, somewhere down the road in 2 years go, oh, wow, I never knew he was talking about that. Because that's the way I felt about the songs I loved, that I grew up on, records from the 70s and the 60s and all that stuff. So that's kind of my level of thinking. Stand up and face the music can mean many things. You have to do that in life. You get yourself in a bind because you did some kind of little cover up, or you pissed somebody off, or day of reckoning is coming. Also, our cover girl, our siren mermaid, who is sinking, passing ships. There's one in the background on the cover that she's about to destroy, I think. Those people in that ship kind of have to literally face the music, because that's music coming out of her that's doing that to them. And, you could take it a few more ways, but, it's generally the meaning of it.
Now, since you just touched on the siren, and I love the album cover, great artwork.
Thank you, man.
Was that siren based on any one woman? Is it based on an actual person? Like, was it modified at all, or was it just completely creatively fabricated from someone's imagination?
There is a legend about a siren. I can't give you the century it came from, but about a beautiful siren girl who hung out in the rocks on the Rhine River in Germany, and the legend is exactly that.
Okay.
There were a bunch of jagged rocks in the shallower waters, and when you're in the water, you can't tell it's shallow, and she'd lure them in, and bam, see ya.
Yeah, no, I just wasn't sure if like her face or anything like that, because there's a good bit of detail, to that particular siren. So I just didn't know if that was actually if you had a model for it, like if there was actually someone that it was kind of, sketched after.
No, we had an artist that works for Frontiers over in Europe, and I sent him a thumbnail. Okay. I first sent it to Doug, and he's like, "Looks great. See what the label thinks." So I sent it over there. I had made a thumbnail, pretty much just put all the elements in there with, whatever, Photoshop, whatever, and mocked it up and sent it. And they said, okay, that looks amazing. We'll have our artist work on it. And then it just went back and forth. Okay. He found this and that, and then added.
But it was
this.
your idea. It was literally your idea. You wanted to have that? That was your art idea?
Yeah, definitely. Nice. Definitely. And then I had to, when it was getting, maybe the third or fourth change before the end, I thought to myself, it really needs a little bit more essence of a darker spirituality, but I don't want it to be too dark, but at the same time I want it to be kind of, something's up with this chick and she's not a real human being. So I said, why don't we just take out her eyes and put in those shining lights? And I think that touch really put the icing on the cake. Everyone was then like, okay, I think we got this.
Right on. I love it. I love that creative side of it, because it's just a totally different dimension that complements the music and the songs so well, so I just totally dig that. Now, for you, As a singer-songwriter, I'm just curious, with the song specifically on Face the Music, how much of it is fact versus fiction? You know, were any of the songs lyrically based on personal experiences you've had, or is it more from a storytelling fiction perspective?
It's a combination of both. You
Yeah.
know, sometimes stories you feel that they come and they're filling in their own words. At least I do, and in that sense, I have to sort of craft a certain amount of the lyrics as I'm going. But I do try to relate those crafty moments to my own thing, because I find that if it always touches, it always grabs something real from inside you. The lyrics just come out better. You know, maybe they're a little simpler, but they just come out better, and you sing them with a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more connection
Right
to
on.
what the song is. Specifically, I did start singing "If It's Love" about something that was going on, in particular in my life,
Okay.
and but you know, a song like "Shelter," which is maybe something that most people can relate to who've been in any kind of a long-term relationship. You know, you go through stuff, and if you make it past trials and tribulations, you finally realize, you know, we're cool, and whatever happens, we're going to work it out, kind of a thing. And that's kind of where I was coming from. So that's just kind of got a universal meaning. So for everybody, it'll mean something different. You know, you hear "Let It Be" by the Beatles, and you can apply that to just about anything. You know, I think somebody was asking me about that song the other day, and in my experience, growing up, when I was a wee tyke in school, people were still talking about, you took history, people were still talking about the Vietnam War and all that stuff.
Right.
And the first time I saw that song, some little girl had brought in this collage she made with all these war pictures, and she put "Let It Be" as the theme song with it. And I watched it, and it just, you know, everybody, all the kids were just like frozen, and it just made perfect sense to us. And I don't know if they do heavy things like that in the U.S. schools anymore. Maybe the times just aren't as heavy anymore as they were back then. But I'm sure Paul didn't originally write that, having, you know, wanting that song to have anything to do with, you know, this is how we can solve our problems, including gigantic wars and, you know, getting people to settle down in a country that's going crazy.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Well, things are so much different now, especially with the 24/7 news cycle. You know, I mean, there was a time where, you know, current events were, you know, how current were they really? You know, how much time did it take to know something was going on since the time it actually happened? Whereas right now, it's, you know, for
Gosh.
everybody, anyone who's got a smartphone anymore, which all phones are virtually smartphones, you know, right? You know,
Yeah.
so it's like boom, boom, boom. Everything's got to be so immediate. Everything's instantaneous gratification, you know. But all that said, speaking of which, you know, we're talking about instantaneous gratification. We want to see Burning Rain live, you know.
Yeah,
So,
baby.
so we know Face the Music is coming out on the 22nd, and I know that you guys are going to be doing your
CD.
release party, your CD release party at Vamped over there in Vegas on the 28th, I believe.
March 29th.
Oh, the
Coming up.
29th. I'm sorry. Yes, the 29th. All right.
Gonna be
And
the
and then
sh-
and then there's some talk about you and Doug going over and doing some acoustic stuff over across the pond.
That's correct. That's correct. It's basically a promotional tour. So we'll go over there with a couple of acoustics on our back, and, you know, do a lot of meet and greets, shake a lot of hands. A lot of people from, you know, magazines and online stuff are going to come down and get a taste of Burning Rain, and the public too. And we're going to do these cool acoustic renditions of the songs, which I don't know if we'll do another acoustic tour at some point, but this may be the only time to see these renditions of these songs, because by and large they got to be a little bit different. I got to work with the you know, the way the vocals flow a little bit, and the guitar parts got to be a little different, and you know, just to make it work in an acoustic environment. So that'll be fun, and we'll work on it a lot on the plane on the way over the pond, so to speak, because we're not going to have a lot of time together before that.
Right.
And then the boys come over, and we do Frontiers Rock on the 28th of March.
Okay.
So
Right on.
so we'll do the Vamped, similar to the Vamped set, but a little different, over in Milan.
Right. Yeah, no, that's cool. Now, see, but the thing is, now you're forcing guys like me, you know, all us ordinary folk, to have to, you know, update our passports and whatnot, you know, so we can come over there and see you guys. Who do we have to torture to get Burning Rain to play over here, you know, in the United States?
Well, I'm not sure who you could torture, but like you said, information superhighway these days, and any smartphone can probably get a hold of us in some of these clubs that we'll be in over in Europe. You know, in the Czech Republic and Holland and Austria and all these places, the UK. We will be doing some sprinkled dates, you know, after March. I'm not sure when. April rather. We've been saying
right. April.
April 28th is the Frontiers Rock. But hopefully May, June, July, you'll see some sprinkled dates in the U.S. I can't say where they are. We've all been around. I mean, the band guys have all been around, me and Bloss and Doug and Brad, so we know promoters who've been calling us, hey, man, we've already heard about it, and they're like, we want to get this, we want to get this. So on our own, maybe, without even, you know, going through an agency and all this stuff, we'll probably just informally book some weekends out, and we'll try this out in the U.S. in some various regions. And I can't say where yet because nothing's signed and sealed yet.
We got to get you out to the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. That's not too far from me.
Okay.
That'd be cool, right?
Yeah, that's a cool spot too. Yeah. And some of my New Yorker friends can make it down.
You know, oh yeah, and there's, I mean, my God, how many places are there in New York? You know that you could play.
Atlantic City. Hey, let's go down.
Oh man! All right. Well, everybody, again, we're here with Keith St. John, frontman for Burning Rain, and they got their brand new album, Face the Music, coming out March 22nd. So make sure you go check that out, everybody. And again, they just had their brand new music video for Face the Music come out the other day, and then they got Midnight Train out there. So while you're waiting in anticipation, you can go check out those official music videos. Keith, thank you so much. And yeah, I just want to wish you the best of luck with the release of this album, and be safe when you're, you know, traveling abroad and, you know, promoting it where we can't possibly appreciate it in person.
Scotty J, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, definitely.
And all you listeners out there are awesome. Yeah. You're awesome for listening to this guy, who's definitely one of the best in the business. If you get a chance to check out Face the Music, like you said, coming out on the 22nd, which is what? A few days from now, right?
Yes, indeedy. Yeah.
Man, give us some feedback. Let me know what you love. Let me know what you hate. Well, let me know what you hate a little bit later on. Give me the love first. And look forward to seeing everybody out there.
Awesome. Well, Keith, thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Yeah, man. Yep.